Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining me. Polina here, coming to you from Peru, talking to you about this very interesting time we are having, and also this very rare, very unique, and very unusual conjunction of a solar eclipse to the solstice. So we have a very, very unique wave of energy coming through. And if you haven't yet noticed, I believe that we've had these very interesting departing frequencies and aligning frequencies that haven't really been maybe noted before. These are very rare. I think the feelings and the different emotional scapes, also the different understandings and associations, self associations, also inner dreams and realities that are coming through now. For me and other people, I've noticed are very, very surreal and very, very unique and unusual in the way that they have come in. So I think that we are already very well restructured, and up until the 27th, we are going to become even more and more aware of how much time we have wasted before. What were those things that we never knew or recognized earlier? How things were super easy to align in the end, and how easy it was for certain people to come to terms with who they are, where they are in the world, how their life is going, and also association, reassociation, recognition of who you are, realizing of any kind of disturbances in your field, your patterns, and your life, especially your love life, should now be very, very easy to realize and recognize. So to me, it looks like a very mild and mellow moon, actually, and a really, really certain way or wave in which we should now realize certain things about ourselves and each other. And there should be probably no issue. So, like the group issue, like the friendship and the childhood issues and everything like that, that could have come to the surface, demographical issues and things like that during this particular transit that we've just had in Gemini, should really now be of no disturbance. So we have perhaps made some changes. Some people have had violent changes in their life. Other people have had very calming and very soothing changes, depending on how far things have gone in the past. And it also feels to me that now is the very, very amazing quintessential time, a very beautiful time to basically come apart from those people, those things, those certainties, situations, ideas, realities, ideals as well, because Gemini really focuses on what is ideal. All of it should really now start coming to pieces. And it also feels to me that the longer we wait for change, the stranger it'll get. So these quintessential quantum insights, I would say, that we had in the last few months probably have to really be realized by now. So if you had the chance to already move on, if you had the chance to already look past certain structures, strategies, and people in your life, and also recognizing maybe that some kind of income is not worthy of your time and there is a new type of income coming in, or anything to do with success and ascension and all those things that are really, really good and now powerful to you, it would be super nice to make that move. And while the moon is so calming, while this sun is so beautiful, while we have all this power and yet all the compassion and the flavor in the world, it should really be of no issue to change the timeline now. So what I mean here is if you got your insight, if you now recognize something and you understand somebody's or something's worth, and you are now re-establishing yourself in terms of who you are in your mind and what is and what isn't economical in your life anymore, this is the time to make a choice. And it is one of the most beautiful times to recognize who you are with and what you are part of, where you are maybe gently not saying what you believe is true, where you are not admitting your own self worth, where you are maybe not quite gentle enough or kind enough to yourself and other people, or where you kind of see how it's going to go and you're still too shy to say it, or you are not maybe strong enough to admit it. So the thing here is basically to go. And now, as we have lots of space and we have a lot of time and there's a lot of leeway, make these changes. And how come there is leeway is because things are still shifting and maybe confusing for some people. For some people, they finally fully released and realized. Perhaps for certain people, there is now a whole drawer of information and a whole treasure chest of ideas that they can already work with. And for certain people, there is not really so much understanding, there is just rage or jealousy, and anything to do with that has to be conquered. So I've already talked about this earlier in the month that June is going to bring out the ego, and that some people don't really have any territories to go or any feet to stand on because they don't really understand how to deal with their inner child or this rocky kind of phenomenon that can sometimes really fruit. And to me, it looks like a lot of people have ego issues and ego based choices. And we just have to dissolve these things, resolve them now. And not for the sake of anybody else, not really for the sake of looking like better people to other people, just for the sake of knowing and understanding that you can do better in life in general if you are not ripped apart by these stories or these feelings or these fears or these mistakes that sometimes people make out of this kind of like negative pattern. And I also feel, believe and trust that for a lot of people, much curiosity and strangeness and awfulness and awkwardness of this time really is just a result of not being able to be available to the changes and the reality checks that any eclipse season should be giving. And also, as we've already gone through the full moon in Sagittarius early in the month, after this moon, we should now be embedding the changes. We should now really be proper and correct and connect all the dots. And if we're not doing this, if we're not proportionate enough, if we're not proper enough, if we're not clear enough, and we're not sincere enough with what is happening, though everything might feel so shiny and disposable to some degree, if we cannot be still and make the right choices accordingly to what's been happening lately and according to where we've come as a society, and also according as to what other people have done around us and how other people have shown us different versions of themselves and different parts of who they are. If we can't just make these choices now, if we cannot do it now, I believe that it's going to be very heavy to lift later. So right now, everything is in a beautiful hover. We're coming up to the solstice, and for some people, this is one of the most magical times to really see themselves through. For some people, it is not. I think that right now, with June marking the summer or the winter equinox, depending on which hemisphere you live on, this is one of the greatest times to just basically tell it like it is, see things how they are, recognize the different parts of your world in sobriety. And maybe for some people, as this equinox is conjunct new moon slash solar eclipse, maybe make a stand for something new, start something new, or change direction completely. So I believe that for some of us, there is not going to be another chance to do it this smoothly. So if you have a plane to catch, or if you have a story to tell, or if you have a place in the world you would rather be, if you have a certain idea of an income or a situation or a purpose that you now are ready to fulfill, there's not probably going to be as easy a slate to really change your life and change your world as there is now. But the thing is, we can't detect it. So this, to me, feels really grand. But because the energy is so boring and we are walking into Cancer, and though we are meeting the North Node with the Sun and the Moon, it seems to me that most people may not detect the crucial structure of this time. And I also believe because we were kind of distracted by the disposable flavor and the extreme humor and optimism of this particular June, I trust that not many of us have really fully recognized the intensity and the order of things during this time. So this is not just a changeover. This is not a small deal. I think that some of the changes, the scopes, realities, and strategies that we can take care of now can be very, very, very big for us later, but also not to count on that. So I believe there are some people that are going to strategize specifically and particularly for this time something or somebody even that will fruit, or some kind of a storyline that they believe is going to be very good to start seeding now. I think that with all this life-changing seeding and life-changing starts that are capable of being, we can't be too computer-minded and mathematical about them. So to me, it feels that for people that are very strong on strategy, and for people that are very strong on mind, and people that are really trying to depend other people on themselves, that are really, really fooling themselves with something that is not entirely organic or correct for their lifetime, there's going to be a deceit. So very fresh, very stylish dreams and ideas, anything too far-fetched that has no roots in order to grow, may become unable or unwise later, and also very likely to start something here. And with these really amazing promises of completely changing your timeline for some people, because it's an eclipse and it is conjunct the solstice, because it is so strong, subtle yet strong. Some people might not be able to really fully resonate with themselves and launch something that is not the whole picture, or not part of the big idea. You know, it's not kind of like relevant or easygoing enough for them in the future to be able to sustain. So another thing about this particular time is that we have a very interesting, enormous need for culture, creativity, mix and match. For certain people, there is not enough presence, and maybe there is not enough of this or that. And this means that some people might be bored, and some people might be lost or hungry for things. If there is not enough maturity yet, if there is not enough sustainability in one's own inner core, then things might feel boring. So what I mean, it's kind of like a bland feeling. So you're looking at your wardrobe, there's nothing that stands out, there's nothing you want to wear. You know, like you're looking at your partner, there's nothing you really want to talk to them about. And same can be about yourself. You're looking at the TV, you're looking at you, you're looking inside of who you are, you're trying to understand what it's all about. And if you are one of those people that, if you're one of those people that finds it really boring during this time, or you are feeling that there is boredom sneaking up, there's going to be perhaps no mistake, a shiver in your energy field, which can distract you from what matters most. So, what I mean is, boring energies and boring feelings can bring you to a dislodging, which may not help you succeed. So, there might be something really interesting happening in your life. There could be interesting people coming to you, there could be interesting results or interesting ideas, but you might be too stale or too unable to recognize because of the need for scatter. And it also feels to me that if you have been one of those people that were really, really sedated perhaps or intrigued by the current events, you might not really be able to contain your own energy or aura. So there's a lot of people that are not able to create on their own accord. And be in trust and in love with themselves and who they are, because they have come to murder a lot of time and options in their life through just basically recognizing disorder beyond their own heart. And that means to me that there's probably quite a few of us that are very well also statured or very well contained, because we did not really understand, we didn't really play along, and we didn't really combine with the most relevant, seemingly, or the most vocal vibrations of this time. So don't believe the hype. And if you didn't believe any hype during this time, I think you might start to make matters better. And that flavor of the intensity that we had in the news recently, and perhaps in private lives as well, it is not a sensitizing, and it is not an ergonomic energy or flavor. It is a distorting and distracting both energy, which might inevitably in due time get us somewhere, but not where we want to be. So I talked a lot about this in the monthly video, that in the new moon, the full moon video also, is that we should not participate with anything or anyone we are not sure on, and we shouldn't talk about anything we don't know anything about, and we shouldn't be part of this really high rise charisma that is coming through people, and also the human voice that has struggled for such a long time, and the energy of chaos and dysfunction is something that is very, very high quantum right now. But the thing here is not to participate, and not to let those voices or those feelings and those angles take your energy out of your life and put it towards some kind of common psychosis. So the thing here is basically to be calm and not to count on anything that anybody says which you are not part of and that does not actually affect you directly. So a little bit about the sun and the solstice. Okay, so we have a very, very unique north node and sun conjunction basically here, almost. So to me, it looks like a very, very good and nurturing time not to do a lot, and to try to basically navigate yourself further in your mind. This is a little bit tricky to explain, as to like what is all worth to you, how you imagine yourself in the near future and even the far future for some people. Where are you going to project to? And what are the common threads or the common trends that you're going to eventually evolve into? And what are you trying to do together with other people? And how will you maybe one day make or structure your world? What are the most common basic things you can rely on, and which perhaps demographics or schools or situations, or maybe even slightly conservative groups, or even countries that would be perhaps more appropriate for you. So I'm seeing a long-term vision, but as we are in solstice, it is a very good time to celebrate you and who you are and where you are. So to me, it's kind of a bit of both worlds. So on one hand, it's about having an incredible vision beyond what is now currently here. So what I mean is like beyond your income bracket, beyond how you are dressed, or like how you belong in the social sense, where you are, where you live, and what you do. Beyond that, there is a bigger, larger thing. There is a larger substance to your world. There is a bigger feeling of it all. There is a more giving and more open reality. And potentially for some of you guys, there is much more than you have previously imagined. So it's about having that very powerful, kind of placid and calm feeling also, without having to reach for anything aggressively. So this is about mature control, while also, on the other hand, congratulating you for anything that has even not come to pass. So, for example, you have written a book you never published, or you've done this thing that was never really fully commemorated, or you met somebody and you spent many years on this person, but these people are not anywhere near you now. That's okay. So, this is also very important to try and reflect on all of those different feelings and worlds and realities that you have already adjusted to and that were or still are home, but also concentrate on this understanding. And many of us already have it really well. It's like, I am part of this, but there is a feeling or there is a knowing that I cannot continue there anymore. So this has come to me early. Most of the experiences I do have quite early, but like, it's not hard to do. You know, it's like recognizing that something is no longer at your level, realizing you have outgrown something or somebody, and also if there are eyes for the next phase or eyes on that next person or situation. Potentially, one of the grooviest things to do right now is to disconnect from the past and to understand that for many of us people, it's not really that easy to swing into a new dimension when we're still carrying and holding a previous part of ourselves. And also, I mean, needless to say, eclipse season is one of the greatest times to really depart and no longer hold yourself back with certain people and things. So, to me, it feels one of the most beautiful ways to really recognize and true care and in true vulnerability, even in innocence, just realize that there are certainties. These certainties are strong in you, and somehow they have survived the shifts. There are character traits that have survived. No matter if you are at home or if you are working or anything like that, there is something about you that has really stuck. And then there's going to be things that you now recognize haven't got that much meaning or that much shine. And the thing I believe here is to realize them as well. So for example, 10 years ago I was trying to be in a certain community, which has come to be now when I'm understanding my own life, right? That these are not my paths and these are not my stories. And the thing here is basically not to bring it up or down, not to make it important or emotional, not to ask how much money or time have I spent, or like how much time could I have saved myself, where did I think I was from, like, all of this. If you do have a bigger reality change, and otherwise you can always do the same kind of as I have done, in a sense, as see it as a beautiful part of your life. So seeing anybody or anything that does not any longer belong as a wonderful growing pain, maybe, or a wonderful state of self creation, or an intermediate state of self. And that means that worrying not is important, so not to worry. And also letting other people have what you no longer want. So, for example, you have departed from a previous relationship, or you've parted ways with someone, or you have no longer need to be in a certain type of job or something like that. And the thing here is not to hold on to it. And as you are able, please prepare that space or that person, maybe in your mind or otherwise, for that next thing. So I think the thing here, for me especially, feels very, very important and has really worked for me so far during this particular transit, is to be kind and not to need the answers. Okay, so sometimes people feel like you owe them something, or that they are owed by somebody something, like, but where is the truth? But where is, like, it's really cool not to participate. And it's very easy here to just not any longer hold on and not to hold off any changes. So there are people that can completely evolve during this time. There's people that can bypass 4 or 5 states of evolution that they were expecting in their particular story to get where they need to be. There's also some of us catching up to our age and our timelines. I've also noticed that for me, during the first eclipse, publishing my very, very actually emotional and personal book, which talks about my trauma, has released me from that trauma. So I'm no longer expecting 5 or 6 years of evolution before getting to that next state. I'm actually expecting more like 1 year of evolution. So the thing here is, yes, very a beautiful time to surface what is underneath. You don't have to do this now, but some people can still take advantage of resurfacing and surfacing certain needs and feelings and wants, maybe talking things over with somebody else, letting trauma be not so, how can I say, sticky and so inward, allowing the mind to be able to open to certain things and to a certain type of time that we can all be having, which is bounds and leaps, like crossing boundaries, crossing Rubicons. And for a lot of people, I believe a lot that was obstructing them inside, and a lot that they were chatting about inside, and a lot which they were expecting inside has now been broken off. But the thing also here I'd like to state is, for some people it's really boring. It's like to see yourself as a new improved person, or to see that there is no fight or there is no aggression and the war is over, to see that there is nowhere else to go with a certain person or timeline, to understand that you no longer want something and there is something that is done, and in a very mature way, not in a like hectic way, but a mature way. A mature way is boring sometimes to people, and it's really sad to see us fall in love with the wrong things straight away like that. So here's the thing is, sometimes for certain people, if they have hardship on the mind, if they have difficulty inside, or they believe only that which matures them through a really ugly or uncomfortable story, some people are not going to witness a beautiful harmonious change. They're not going to witness that. I think that some people are going to stop and try again with the previous things. There's some people asking for payment, asking for debts, asking for answers. There's some people still angry about something that is just like not longer part of their reality because they have outgrown it. Okay, and there's also some people pushing themselves back into shoes that they cannot walk in anymore because they're too small. There's some people asking for work which is not really theirs to do anymore. There's also some people, I believe, easily in misbehaving strategies or trying to misbehave because by being, how can I say, by being badly treated, or by being spiked, or by being badly spoken to, or by being part of a conflict, some of us still get pleasure. Okay, so the thing here is also, yeah, I told you so. That's just how it goes. We're approaching a really beautiful moon in a 0-degree Cancer here. This is a very, very nasty time for some people, because certain people cannot just behave as they would. They cannot just have it and just see it and feel it and kind of space it out and create this beautiful, unique, just tasty clarity that they can now create. Some people want to fill it all with junk, with stuff. So instead of like just leaving their ex, they will continue to bombard themselves and other people with information, instead of just taking a day off. Some people will fill it up with jobs and errands and ways of stressing themselves out. So please commit to this very simple energy what is yours probably really feels like it is yours. We are having, I believe, greater association here with the heart. And it feels also, the mind feels a lot more compact and clean. And I also trust that there's many of us that really now idealize or identify with certain storylines, certain emotional or metaphysical suggestibles. I believe that there are certain people that are really starting to take themselves apart from chaos and are using this lull to really step into something a little more comfortable. People say, oh, hang on, I'll slip into something a little more comfortable. It's kind of like that. It's like stepping into something a little more comfortable. And then there is this also energy that I'm seeing, like this angry edge of wanting to somehow take it up with the authorities, like wanting to somehow pursue your ex or really wedge yourself in there. And I'm kind of like wondering, do you need the clutter? So, right now, like the best thing is to be grateful and open to the next phase. We have North Node solstice conjunct a solar eclipse slash new moon. This is where it needs to happen by itself. And also, this, if you let it, ends a lot of suffering and a lot of scatter in your life. So the way I'm going to try to do it myself during these days up till about the 27th, I'm going to let it really go here. Slowly, okay, I have a call, I'll answer the call, okay? I wake up leisurely, okay? Everything that you have needs to have its own place. Also realize if there are items or ways of life or ideas, ideologies that are no longer serving you, and also reform yourself away from people that are always peaked and spiked. It's very heavy stuff. Being around people that are always on a high right now it's very important to notice this. It's toxic. Okay, so for example, you have a friend, and even during this interesting kind of unwinding moon, they're still angry all the time. Energetically, we kind of like waning now, and we are going to probably see where there is a space exposed. Ah, okay, karma free space. Here's a silence, like learn to love it. Here I can just sit there and look at my feed. Here I can just read a couple of books, maybe. I can just sit and enjoy the flavor of the day, of the moment. But no, no, no. Some people freak out. There is no sure way to launch things also during this time, because the solstice is a climax that suggests completion usually, and things that can come across that are new because we're in the new moon are always during this time not part of ourselves and what we believe. We are kind of sort of given them by accident, or we sort of like enriched or infused with the new by some other source. And then say, like chopping wood, carrying water, doing everything every day, right now doesn't need to be part of it. Because I feel that by having a break and having some clarity and having just a little more self-respect and space for it all without fuming, without collecting right now is bad. There'll come a wave and you can take anything you want, but right now we have collected what we had to understand. And those open spaces, or maybe even those broken spaces, are now the most beautiful celestial way to basically admit things. It's more like a space to place you next to something or someone else that you don't yet even imagine. So it's like the more beautiful or the most significant changes can come if we're not so rat-like. Rat-like and tired and tied to like all these things we thought we'd do. There is nothing to do. Many people still have things to do. Okay, so if you do have things to do, make sure that you unwind that ball of energy that makes you feel that pressure is love, or that, say, seclusion or difficulty or infantility or scatter is love. Fussing is love. You know, beating yourself up is love. Trying to be perfect is love. You know, trying to surround yourself with toxic or uncomfortable people is love. Walking into misunderstandings on purpose is love, or teaching yourself negative things through abused or humiliated circumstances or individuals is love. That's not love. It's not. Okay. The thing here is to know if you self jeopardize, as it might be very obvious, and what you do when there is space. Notice what you do when there is space and how you treat yourself and others with that space in mind. Can you understand, or can you notice the holiness of the interval? Or can you be available to more clarity and more classical, sort of more humble and more clean and simple representations of you? So yeah, for sure, beautiful time. I suggest, as we go through the solstice, beautiful time for people that are actually the best for you. Yeah, like say celebrating, having dinner, whatever. Not to invite anybody that doesn't feel like they belong, as weird as that sounds. So clarity. Also, if there's only one or two people that you really love, then that's who it is, you know. And then maybe starting desaturating yourself from this state maybe only by the 26th, 27th, because I'm feeling that there is a very slow and very fine intuitive edge to this particular time, and we don't need to rush it. So it feels like rushing things right now doesn't feel good. Right, yeah, we'll make one rush, like we had around the full moon eclipse early this month, and then there is a lull. So if you can respect the lulls during a right year specifically, I think that the gushes or the fast moving, naturally pushy, full energies are going to be much more interesting and many times more successful. So the contrast will give you more, I believe. So let's keep it slow. And then maybe by the 26th, they're going to be natural ways and natural currents that'll pick things up for us. And I believe that by the end of the month, we'll have much more to dream, think, and feel and talk about. But just at this point, we have to associate in order to really understand. So it's like making a clay pot, okay? So if you are making a clay pot, to use the pot that you've made, you have to wait for it to dry in the air, the sun, or you have to wait for it to go in the oven. It takes a little time to set things in order to be able to benefit from them the most later. So thanks a lot. I hope that you had a nice time hanging with me. If you'd like a reading, I offer them on my website. I also have a total of 6 books, and 2 of them are new. They're all in the caption section below. And if you want to know more about your particular sign for the month of June, check out my Patreon page. Thank you. Bye.